So, I was recently hanging out with some friends at this bar downtown, and we got to talking about high school. You know how it goes. Someone brings up an old story, everyone starts laughing, and suddenly you're all reminiscing about the dumbest things you did as teenagers. Well, this particular night, we started talking about our old relationships, the drama, the breakups, all that ridiculous stuff that seemed like the end of the world at the time, but looking back now just makes you shake your head and wonder what you were thinking. And that's when I remembered Sarah. My name's Jake, by the way. I'm 26 now, got a decent job as a software developer, a nice apartment in the city, and I like to think I've matured a lot since high school. But this story about Sarah and what happened at that party, this is legitimately one of the funniest experiences I've ever had. And honestly, it taught me a valuable life lesson that I still carry with me today. So let me take you back to 10th grade. I was 15, stupid, and desperately wanted a girlfriend because, well, that's what you do in high school, right? Everyone's dating someone. Everyone's holding hands in the hallways and going to movies together and posting couple pictures on Facebook. I felt like I was missing out on something important, like there was this whole part of the teenage experience I wasn't getting. That's when I met Sarah. Sarah was pretty, I'll give her that. Long brown hair that she spent forever straightening every morning, nice smile, big green eyes. She was popular too. Not like head cheerleader popular, but she had a lot of friends and everyone seemed to know who she was. And for some reason, she seemed interested in me, which was enough for my 15-year-old brain to think, yeah, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. We started dating in the fall of 10th grade. It was early October, right around Halloween. I remember because our first date was to this haunted corn maze that her friend's family ran. She'd grabbed onto my arm and pretended to be scared the whole time, even though the monsters were clearly just high school kids in cheap costumes. But I felt cool, you know? I had a girlfriend. I was doing the thing everyone else was doing. At first, it was fine. We'd hang out after school at the local coffee shop where all the teenagers went. We'd text each other constantly, like hundreds of messages a day about absolutely nothing. We'd sit together at lunch, do all the typical high school couple stuff that seemed so important at the time. But here's the thing, and I didn't really realize this until months later, we had absolutely nothing in common. Like nothing at all. Sarah was super into reality TV shows. She'd talk for hours about the Real Housewives or whatever dating show was popular that season. She knew all the celebrity gossip, who was dating who, which celebrities were feuding. She'd spend hours scrolling through celebrity, Instagram accounts, and reading tabloid websites. I, on the other hand, was into video games and basketball. I'd play Call of Duty with my friends online until like 2 in the morning. I watched NBA games religiously. I'd spend my weekends either playing pickup basketball at the park or grinding through whatever new game had just come out. Sarah liked going to the mall and shopping for hours, trying on clothes and asking my opinion on outfits that all looked exactly the same to me. I liked hanging out with my friends, just shooting the shit and doing nothing in particular. She listened to top 40 pop music exclusively. I was into rock and hip-hop. She wanted to watch rom-coms on movie nights. I wanted to watch action movies or comedies. She loved posting on social media constantly, taking selfies everywhere we went. I barely posted anything and thought the whole thing was kind of pointless. We had different music tastes, different hobbies, different interests, different values, different everything. We couldn't have a conversation that lasted more than 5 minutes without running out of things to talk about because we literally had nothing to discuss. The only thing we really had in common was that we both wanted to be in a relationship. That was it. We were together because being single felt worse than being with someone we didn't really connect with, which, looking back now, is probably the worst possible reason to date someone. But when you're 15, you don't really think about compatibility or long-term potential or any of that stuff. You just think, I have a girlfriend, and that feels like enough. We dated all through 10th grade and into 11th grade, almost 2 years total. And honestly, most of that time was just exhausting, because Sarah had this one trait that dominated everything else about her personality: jealousy. She was the most jealous person I've ever met in my life, before or since. She was jealous of everybody: her friends, strangers, people she saw on Instagram, celebrities, literally everyone. And she wanted everybody to be jealous of her too. That was her whole thing. She needed to be the center of attention at all times, and she needed everyone around her to be envious of what she had. If I talked to another girl, even just like, hey, did we have math homework? Or, can I borrow a pencil? Sarah would lose her mind. She'd interrogate me about it later. Who was that? Why were you talking to her? Do you think she's pretty? Are you interested in her? It didn't matter if it was a girl I'd known since elementary school or someone I'd never spoken to before. Any interaction with a female who wasn't Sarah was treated like a betrayal. If one of her friends got a new car, or a new phone, or a new bag, Sarah would pout about it for days. She'd make passive-aggressive comments about how some people's parents just buy them whatever they want, even though her parents bought her plenty of stuff. She couldn't just be happy for her friends. Everything was a competition. If we went to a party and someone else's outfit got more compliments than hers, the whole night was ruined. She'd be in a bad mood, wouldn't talk to anyone, would want to leave early. Then she'd spend the next week planning her outfit for the next party, determined to outdo whoever had gotten more attention than her. She'd constantly compare our relationship to other couples. Why don't you post about me as much as Brad posts about his girlfriend? Or, how come you don't buy me flowers randomly like Emma's boyfriend does? It was never enough. I was never doing enough, saying enough, posting enough, showing enough affection. There was always someone else's boyfriend who was doing it better, and the social media stuff was insane. She'd want to take like 50 pictures every time we hung out, then spend an hour editing them and picking the perfect one to post. She'd get upset if I didn't like and comment on her posts fast enough. She'd compare the number of likes our couple pictures got to other couples' photos. She'd analyze who was liking her stuff and get upset if certain people didn't. It was exhausting. It was constant. It never stopped. And by the end of 11th grade, I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I had enough stuff going on at home that I didn't need her drama on top of it. My parents were going through a really rough patch. They'd been fighting a lot, loud arguments late at night about money and work and stuff I didn't fully understand. They'd stopped eating dinner together. My dad was sleeping on the couch most nights. There was talk about separation, maybe divorce. The whole atmosphere at home was tense and uncomfortable. My grades were slipping because I was stressed out all the time and couldn't focus on schoolwork. I'd gone from being a solid B student to getting C's and D's on tests because I'd just stare at the questions and my mind would be somewhere else. I was working a part-time job at the local grocery store, bagging groceries and stocking shelves, trying to save up money for a car. I'd work shifts after school and on weekends, coming home exhausted. I was trying to keep my grades up enough to get into a decent college. I was trying to be there for my younger sister, who was also struggling with our parents' situation. I was trying to maintain my friendships and not become a complete hermit. I simply didn't have the energy to deal with Sarah's constant need for validation and attention on top of everything else. I didn't have the emotional bandwidth to reassure her 5 times a day that I wasn't interested in other girls. I didn't have the mental space to worry about whether I was posting enough about our relationship on Instagram. So about a week before the end of our junior year, I decided I had to end it. I'd been thinking about it for months, honestly, but I kept putting it off because I knew it was going to be messy. But I couldn't keep doing it. It wasn't fair to either of us. We were sitting in my car after school. I'd driven her home like I always did. She lived about 10 minutes from the school in this nice subdivision with big houses and manicured lawns. I pulled up in front of her house and put the car in park, but I didn't turn off the engine. "Hey, we need to talk," I said. She immediately knew something was wrong. I could see it in her face. Her expression changed from happy to worried in like half a second. "What's wrong? Did I do something?" "No, you didn't do anything. I think we should break up." There was a long silence. She just stared at me like I'd spoken a different language. Like she couldn't process the words that had just come out of my mouth. "What?" she finally said. Her voice was small. "I don't think this is working out," I said, trying to be as gentle as possible but also trying to be firm. I'd practiced this conversation in my head 100 times. We're just too different. We don't have anything in common. I think we'd both be happier if we weren't together. "That's not true," she said, shaking her head. "We have tons of stuff in common. We're perfect together. Everyone says so. Sarah, we don't. We like completely different things. We can barely have a conversation without arguing or running out of things to say. This isn't healthy for either of us." And that's when the waterworks started. She went through all 5 stages of grief right there in my passenger seat, and I watched it happen in real time. Denial. "You don't mean that. You're just stressed about school. We can work through this." Anger. "How could you do this to me? After everything I've done for you? After all the time we've spent together? You're just going to throw it all away?" Bargaining. "We can fix this. I'll change. I'll be better. I won't be jealous anymore. Just give me another chance. Please, Jake. We can make this work." Depression. She started sobbing. Like really sobbing? The kind where You can't catch your breath, and your whole body shakes. Mascara running down her face, hyperventilating, the works. And finally, after what felt like an hour but was probably only 20 minutes, a weird kind of acceptance. She just got really quiet, wiped her eyes, looked out the window at her house. Then, without saying anything else, she grabbed her backpack and got out of my car, slamming the door hard enough that I thought she might have broken something. I watched her walk up to her front door, unlock it, and go inside without looking back. I sat there for a minute, feeling weird. Relieved, mostly, but also kind of sad. 2 years is a long time to spend with someone, even if it wasn't a great relationship. It's still an ending, you know? I drove home thinking that was it. That was the end of the Sarah chapter of my life. We'd go our separate ways, maybe be awkward around each other for a while, but eventually we'd both move on and it would be fine. I was very, very wrong. We still had a week left of school, just 5 more days before summer break, 5 days of finals and end-of-year assemblies and cleaning out lockers. 5 days that I thought I could just keep my head down and get through without any drama. Sarah had other plans. She made it her life's mission to make those 5 days as miserable as possible for me. The next day at school, I could feel her glaring at me from across the cafeteria during lunch. She was sitting with her friends, and every time I looked over, she was staring at me with this look of pure hatred. In the hallway between classes, she'd make loud comments as I walked past. "Some people are just users," she'd say to her friend, but loud enough that everyone around us could hear. "They just take and then throw you away when they're done with you." She posted vague things on Facebook, clearly directed at me. Quotes about betrayal and broken hearts, and when you realize someone wasn't who you thought they were. She'd post sad song lyrics. She'd share those relationship memes that were like, "when he breaks your heart for no reason," with crying emojis. She told anyone who would listen that I was a horrible person who broke her heart for no reason, that I'd blindsided her, that everything had been perfect and I just decided to end it randomly because I was cruel or commitment phobic or whatever story she was telling. And here's the thing that really showed me I'd made the right decision. She tried desperately to turn all our mutual friends against me. Because we'd been dating for almost 2 years, we had developed this friend group together. People who were originally my friends, people who were originally her friends, and people who had become friends with both of us. There was Marcus, who I'd known since middle school, his girlfriend Jen, who had become friends with Sarah. There was Chris and his girlfriend Amanda. There was this girl Katie, who was friends with Sarah, but cool with me. There was Brad and Emma, who were that couple that had been together since like freshman year. Sarah went to each of them individually and tried to get them on her side. She'd call them or text them or pull them aside at school. She'd tell them her version of the story, how I'd been mean to her, how I'd broken up with her out of nowhere, how I'd been a terrible boyfriend. She'd cry and play the victim. She'd ask them to choose between us. "If you're really my friend," she'd say, "you won't hang out with Jake anymore. He hurt me too much. I can't be around him." But here's what she didn't count on. They all knew her. They'd been dealing with her drama and jealousy for 2 years too. They'd watched her freak out over nothing. They'd heard her complaints about me constantly. They'd seen the way she treated me, always demanding more attention, more validation, more everything. So when she tried to make them pick sides, most of them just kind of shrugged and said, "We're friends with both of you. We're not getting involved in relationship drama." A few of them actually came to me privately afterward and said they understood why I ended things. Marcus told me he'd been wondering how long I was going to put up with her behavior. Chris said he and Amanda had talked about it, and they both thought I seemed way less stressed now that we'd broken up. It didn't work in her favor at all, and I think that made her even more upset. She'd expected everyone to rally around her and shun me, and instead they just wanted the drama to end. Eventually, after school ended for the summer, she calmed down and left me alone. The daily barrage of passive-aggressive posts stopped. She stopped trying to corner our friends and make them choose. She stopped glaring at me everywhere I went. I thought that was finally the end of it, that we'd just go our separate ways and I could enjoy my summer. Maybe see her around occasionally, be polite, and that would be that. But then about 2 weeks into summer break, I started hearing through the grapevine that Sarah was seeing someone new. It started with Katie mentioning it casually. We were hanging out at the mall with a few people, and she said, "Oh, did you hear Sarah has a new boyfriend?" "Good for her," I said, genuinely meaning it. I hoped she'd be happy and move on. "His name's Tyler. He goes to East High, plays baseball." "Cool," I said, and changed the subject because I really didn't care. But then I started hearing about it more, and more, and more. Sarah was posting about Tyler constantly on social media. Pictures of them together with long captions about how happy she was. Status updates about their dates, check-ins at restaurants and movies. It was like every single thing they did together had to be documented and shared with the world. And that would have been fine, people post about their relationships, whatever, except all of her posts had this weird energy to them, like she was trying way too hard to prove something. Her captions would say things like, "So lucky to have found someone who actually appreciates me," or "Finally with someone who knows how to treat a girl right," or "This is what a real relationship looks like." She'd comment on posts in our friend group's conversations with stuff like, "Tyler and I just had the most amazing date. He's so thoughtful, way more thoughtful than most guys I've known." She'd bring him to group hangouts even when she wasn't explicitly invited to bring a plus one. We'd be hanging out at someone's house, just our usual friend group, and she'd show up with Tyler in tow, and she'd talk about him nonstop to anyone who would listen. Every conversation somehow circled back to Tyler. "Oh, that reminds me of this funny thing," Tyler said. "Tyler loves that movie too. Tyler is so good at basketball, way better than most guys I've seen play." And the thing is, it was so obvious what she was doing. She wasn't dating this guy because she liked him. She was dating him to hurt me. Every post, every comment, every story was designed to make me jealous. And I could see our friends getting tired of it. They'd roll their eyes when she started talking about Tyler again. They'd exchange looks when she posted another over-the-top caption about how perfect her relationship was. But I honestly didn't care. I wasn't jealous at all. I was actually relieved she was dating someone else. Not just because I'm secure enough in myself not to care who my ex dates, though that's part of it, but mainly because I really thought it would make her give up on whatever revenge plot she had going on. I thought once she had a new boyfriend, she'd focus on that relationship and finally leave me alone. I thought she'd realize I'd moved on, she'd moved on, and we could all just coexist peacefully. I should have known better. The summer before senior year was actually pretty great for me, despite Sarah's attempts to make it about her. I was single and genuinely enjoying it. I'd go to parties with my friends, hang out at the lake on hot days, work my shifts at the grocery store, play basketball at the park whenever I had free time. No drama, no jealousy. No one constantly needing validation and attention. It was peaceful. My parents' situation had improved a bit too. They'd started going to counseling together, and while things weren't perfect, they'd stopped fighting as much. My dad was back in their bedroom. We were eating dinner together as a family again. Things felt more stable at home. Our friend group started hanging out together again too, even though they were absolutely tired of Sarah and her whole performance at this point. She'd show up with Tyler to beach days or bonfires or house parties, and we'd all just kind of tolerate it because we were friends and that's what you do. But Sarah was still completely fixated on making me jealous. It was like her entire personality had become prove to Jake that Tyler is better than him. She'd sit extra close to Tyler when I was around, practically in his lap. She'd laugh super loud at his jokes, even when they weren't funny. She'd make comments about how happy she was, how much better her life was now, how she'd definitely upgraded from her last relationship. She'd post pictures with captions like, "When you realize what you were missing," or "Finally know what it's like to be treated right," or "Everything happens for a reason." And the thing is, it just wasn't working. I didn't care at all. I was genuinely happy for her if she was happy with Tyler. And if she wasn't actually happy and was just performing for my benefit, well, that was her problem, not mine. I had my own life to worry about. I was thinking about senior year coming up, about college applications, about SATs, about saving money for a car, about enjoying my last summer before everything got serious with college prep. I didn't have the time or energy to care about who Sarah was dating or why, which I think only made her more desperate. Because the more I didn't react, the more extreme her attempts became. It was like watching someone dig themselves deeper and deeper into a hole, and everyone else could see it except her. So we get to the last week of summer. School's about to start up again for our senior year in like 5 days. And one of our friends, Marcus, the same Marcus who'd been my friend since middle school, decides to throw a party at his place. Marcus's parents were pretty cool. They knew teenagers were going to drink and do stupid stuff whether they approved or not, so their philosophy was, we'd rather you do it somewhere safe. So they'd gone to visit his grandparents for the weekend and told Marcus he could have some friends over, as long as we didn't trash the place and nobody drove drunk. Marcus invited pretty much everyone in our friend group, including Sarah. And when Sarah found out I was invited, she lost her mind about it. She started texting people in the group saying she was afraid to come because I'd be there. She sent Marcus this long message about how she was uncomfortable and worried that I might start something with Tyler. She was claiming she was scared I was going to try to fight Tyler because I was so jealous of their relationship. She was playing the victim card hard, acting like I was some kind of threat. She even demanded that Marcus uninvite me. She said it wasn't fair that she had to miss out on hanging out with her friends just because her crazy ex-boyfriend was going to be there. Now, Marcus and I had been friends since we were like 12. We'd been through middle school together. We played on the basketball team together. He knew me better than almost anyone, and he knew damn well I wasn't going to start any trouble. He knew I didn't care about Sarah's new relationship. He knew I just wanted to hang out with my friends and have a good time. So he told Sarah that if she was that uncomfortable, maybe she shouldn't come. But I was his friend, I was. Invited, and I was going to be there. Sarah apparently did not like that answer. She tried to rally some of the other girls in the group to her side, claiming Marcus was being insensitive. But they all pretty much said the same thing, that she was being dramatic and if she didn't want to be around me, she didn't have to come. Looking back now, I'm really glad Marcus didn't uninvite her. And I'm really glad she decided to come anyway. Because what happened that night is legitimately one of the funniest things I've ever witnessed. The party started around 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. It was late August, still warm and humid. Marcus's parents had a really nice house, 2 stories, a big backyard with a deck and a fire pit, and a finished basement. I got there around 8:30 with a couple of my buddies. We brought some drinks, just a case of cheap beer and a couple of those Four Loko things that were really popular back then. You know, the ones that were basically battery acid mixed, with alcohol and enough caffeine to kill a small horse. Yeah, we were drinking those. When we arrived, there were already about 20 people there. Everyone was hanging out in the backyard, music playing. Someone had gotten the fire pit going. The vibe was pretty chill. And then Sarah showed up with Tyler. I was in the middle of a conversation with Chris about basketball when I heard Jen say, "Oh God, she's here," under her breath. I looked up and saw Sarah walking through the sliding glass door, Tyler in tow behind her. She was dressed like she was going clubbing, not to a house party. Tight dress, heels that immediately started sinking into the grass, full makeup, hair perfectly styled. Tyler was in jeans and a button-down, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. I could immediately feel the energy shift. A few of my friends came up to me and basically said, "Hey man, just ignore whatever she does, we got your back." Which I appreciated, but I really didn't think anything was going to happen. I was there to hang out with my friends and have fun, not to deal with Sarah's drama. Sarah made her entrance like she was walking onto a movie set. She had a death grip on Tyler's hand and was practically dragging him around the backyard, introducing him to everyone like he was some kind of trophy. "This is Tyler, my boyfriend." She was being so over the top about it that it was actually kind of embarrassing to watch. And every time I came within like 10 feet of her, she'd immediately drape herself all over Tyler. She'd laugh louder, touch his arm, play with his hair, kiss his cheek. It was so obvious what she was doing. She was performing and not even doing a good job of hiding it. Tyler, for his part, seemed like a pretty chill guy. He'd smile and go along with it, but I could tell he was uncomfortable. At one point, I actually caught his eye across the yard, and he gave me this look that was like, "I'm sorry about this." I just shrugged and went back to drinking with my friends. I actually felt kind of bad for him. He seemed like a genuinely nice guy, and it was pretty clear that Sarah was just using him as a prop in her weird revenge plot against me. Even though it wasn't working even a little bit, the party went on, people were drinking, laughing, having a good time. Someone set up beer pong in the garage. A few people were swimming in Marcus's pool. Someone else had brought cornhole boards and set them up on the deck. It was a typical high school end of summer party. Nothing crazy, just kids being kids before senior year started. As the night went on and it got later, people started leaving. By around midnight, there were maybe 10 or 12 of us left. Most of us were pretty drunk at that point, sprawled out in Marcus's living room because it had gotten cold outside and nobody wanted to deal with the mosquitoes by the fire pit anymore. This is where things get interesting. This is where Sarah's master plan to make me jealous absolutely backfired, in the most spectacular way possible. Sarah and Tyler were on the couch across the room from where I was sitting on the floor with Chris and Brad. We were just talking about random stuff, arguing about which Grand Theft Auto game was the best, debating whether we should all go to the same college or spread out. I was working on finishing my second Four Loko of the night, which in retrospect was a terrible idea. Those things were disgusting and way too strong. But hey, I was 17 and stupid. Sarah, meanwhile, was ramping up her performance. And I mean really going for it. She was all over Tyler, kissing him aggressively, running her hands through his hair, basically straddling him right there on Marcus's couch in front of everyone. They were just full-on making out while the rest of us tried to ignore them. Marcus actually had to tell her to cool it. "Sarah, come on. My parents are gonna kill me if they find out people were hooking up on their furniture." She backed off for like 2 minutes, but then she was right back at it. And the whole time she kept glancing over at me, checking to see if I was watching, checking to see if I was getting jealous. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. I was way more interested in the heated debate about Grand Theft Auto. But Sarah just kept escalating. She was determined to get a reaction out of me. At one point, Katie actually got up and moved to a different seat because she was uncomfortable with how aggressively they were going at it. Tyler was clearly drunk too. I'd seen him putting away beers all night. He was just going along with whatever Sarah wanted, and that's when it happened. I heard this sound, this loud, wet, disgusting burp. The kind that makes every single person in the room immediately go silent, because we all know what's about to happen next. Time seemed to slow down. I looked up just in time to see Tyler's eyes go wide. His face turned this awful greenish color. While she'd been forcing her tongue down Tyler's throat, his mouth pressed against hers, lips locked together, he had just thrown up, directly into her mouth. And it didn't stop there. It kept going. The vomit sprayed out from between their lips like a fountain. It splattered all over Sarah's face, her neck, her chest, her fancy dress. It got in her hair, it dripped down her arms. Tyler tried to pull away and attempted to cover his mouth with his hand. Big mistake, huge mistake. When he covered his mouth, it didn't stop the vomit. It just redirected it. The pressure from his hand made it spray everywhere like a fire hose. It sprayed onto Sarah again, onto the couch, onto the coffee table, onto the floor, onto the wall. His hand was just making it worse, turning it into this horrible arc of puke that splashed across Marcus's living room. Sarah was sitting there, completely frozen, covered head to toe in Tyler's vomit. It was in her hair, on her face, soaked into her dress, dripping down her chest. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody said anything. And then Sarah started crying. Full-on, hysterical, can't catch your breath sobbing. The kind of crying where your whole face scrunches up and you make sounds that don't even sound human. She was trying to wipe the vomit off her face with her hands, but that just made it worse. She was gagging. Her mascara was running in black streaks down her cheeks, mixing with the vomit. Tyler had finally stopped throwing up and was just sitting there, looking like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole. He kept saying, I'm so sorry, over and over. And me? I was lying on the floor, laughing my drunk ass off. I couldn't help it. I tried to stop, but it was just too perfect. Too karmic. Too absolutely hilarious. There was something deeply satisfying about watching my crazy ex-girlfriend, who had spent literal months trying to make me jealous, who had used this poor guy as a prop, who had just spent the entire night trying to get a reaction out of me, sitting there, absolutely drenched in her new boyfriend's puke while sobbing her eyes out. And the best part? It was entirely her own fault. She'd created this whole situation. She'd forced Tyler to make out with her even though he was clearly too drunk. I was laughing so hard I couldn't breathe. Tears were running down my face. Every time I tried to stop, I'd look over and see her covered in puke and I'd start laughing again. Chris and Brad were trying not to laugh too, but failing. Katie had her hand over her mouth. Marcus was just standing there with his hands on his head like, my parents are going to kill me. Jen finally jumped into action. She grabbed some towels from the bathroom and brought them to Sarah. Come on, let's get you cleaned up, she said, helping Sarah to her feet. Sarah was still crying, stumbling in her heels, leaving a trail of vomit drops across Marcus's floor. Jen guided her toward the bathroom, throwing us all dirty looks. Which, fair enough, we probably were terrible people in that moment. But also, come on, it was objectively hilarious. Tyler was still sitting on the vomit-covered couch, looking absolutely mortified. He kept apologizing to Marcus. I'm so sorry, man. I'll clean it up. I'll pay to get your couch cleaned. Marcus was actually pretty cool about it. Dude, it's fine. Shit happens. Just help me clean it up. A bunch of us pitched in to help clean while Sarah was in the bathroom. We got paper towels and cleaning spray. We opened all the windows. We took the couch cushions outside to hose them down. Tyler was practically crying with embarrassment while he helped clean. I don't know what happened, he kept saying. That's Four Loko for you, Brad said. That shit will sneak up on you. After like 20 minutes, Sarah emerged from the bathroom. She'd cleaned the vomit off her face and arms, but her hair was still wet with it, and her dress was completely ruined. Her makeup was smeared everywhere. She didn't say anything to anyone. just grabbed her purse and basically ran out the front door. Tyler looked at us helplessly. I should probably. Yeah, you should go make sure she's okay, Marcus said. Tyler left, still apologizing as he went. Once they were both gone, we all just kind of looked at each other, and then everyone burst out laughing. Did that really just happen? Katie asked. I can't believe she spent all night trying to make Jake jealous and then her boyfriend puked in her mouth, Chris said. It was perfect. It was karmic justice at its finest. By the time school started the following week, everyone knew about it. And I mean everyone. Sarah walked into school that first day and was immediately known as the girl who got puked on at a party. People were talking about it in the hallways. Someone had made a meme about it. And kids being kids, nobody let her live it down. People would make puking sounds when she walked past. Someone put a paper bag on her locker with barf bag written on it. Now I know. That sounds mean. And it definitely was mean. But it was also pretty karmic. Sarah had spent years making other people feel like crap. She thrived on drama. She'd spread rumors. She'd talked trash about her friends. She'd tried to ruin my reputation after our breakup. So while I didn't participate in the teasing, I also didn't feel that bad about what was happening. After the first couple weeks, when the jokes died down, Sarah changed. She stopped trying to start drama with me. She stopped posting constantly. She just calmed down. For the rest of senior year, she kept to herself. She wasn't the center of attention anymore. Tyler and I actually became kind of friendly. He came up to me once and apologized. Dude, I had no idea she was using me to make you jealous, he said. It's not your fault, man, I told him. You seem like a good guy. They broke up about 2 months into senior year. Tyler seemed relieved. Senior year ended up being really chill for me. I focused on my grades. I played basketball and made varsity. I applied to colleges and got into a good state school with a decent scholarship. I haven't really kept up with Sarah since graduation. Through mutual friends, I've heard she went to college, studied communications, and met a guy there who she ended up marrying. And you know what? I'm genuinely happy for her. I hope she's grown up since high school. I hope she's worked through whatever insecurity made her act the way she did. But that night at the party, that will forever be one of my all-time favorite memories. Not because I enjoyed watching her get humiliated, but because it was such a perfect example of what happens when you go out of your way to hurt someone and prove a point that nobody cares about. She spent months trying to make me jealous. And in the end, it all culminated in the single most embarrassing moment of her high school career. It literally blew up in her face. Or, more accurately, it vomited directly into her mouth. And that brings me to the life lesson. If you're going to go out of your way to hurt someone's feelings, just don't. Seriously, it's not worth it. It won't make you feel better. It'll just make you look petty and insecure. And sometimes it'll blow up in your face in the most spectacular way possible. Sarah spent an entire summer trying to hurt me. She put so much energy into making me jealous. And in the end, all it got her was a mouthful of vomit and a nickname that followed her for the rest of high school. Meanwhile, I just lived my life. I focused on my friends, my family, my future. And I ended up having an amazing senior year. So, yeah. The lesson here is simple. When someone breaks up with you or hurts you, just let it go. Move on. Focus on yourself instead of trying to hurt them back. Don't go out of your way to make someone jealous. Don't use other people as props in your revenge plot. It never works out the way you think it will. And you might just end up with vomit in your mouth in front of all your friends. Trust me on that one. I watched it happen, and it was hilarious.